What's good, y'all? I am so hyped to talk about the Onix and Steelix buffs. They are absolutely colossal, probably some of the biggest, I guess, quote-unquote blow-ups. Although, I mean, Onix's probably might be, but there are tons of other blow-ups. There was so many terrible Pokemon. If this is your first impression of this ROM hack, don't be, like, scared away or freaked out or anything. Not every buff is as, like, massive in terms of just raw stat changes and stuff. This might be a very jarring first impression of the hack, pun not intended. It's not like every single buff is this crazy. It's just I really like Onix and Steelix. They're absolutely huge Pokemon. I think they should be super powerful. There are also so many strong Pokemon in this hack with crazy boosting abilities and crazy moves that are high base power that will absolutely melt through even the sheer bulk of something like Steelix and Mega Steelix or Violet Onix. But the reason I buffed their HP so much is because in this hack, I really try to base HP more on the size of the Pokemon. Obviously, it's not like a perfect 1-to-1 ratio. That would be very unreasonable. But just in general, as a rule of thumb, and Onix and Steelix are absolutely massive. So I gave them huge HP stats of 120 and 130. Their defense did drop a little bit just for base stat total reasons. Speaking of the base stat total, yes, these guys are now quote-unquote pseudo-legendaries. There are dozens of new ones in this hack, both single-stage. Well, there's no single-stage pseudos, but there are 2-stage and 3-stage pseudos, and then there are something I call semi-pseudos, which are 575 base stat total Pokemon, which are basically like anywhere from 1 to 3-stage Pokemon. And there are 550 base stat total is a very common benchmark for both 3-stage and 2-stage Pokemon. And every single Pokemon in general is just massively reworked and buffed in this hack. Speaking of buffs and reworks, if you check out the Google Sheet, linked right down below in the description, you can also check out all of the move buffs and changes in this hack. I have reworked literally every single move. There are like a few dozen that were untouched at most, out of like the 600 plus in this game. So I highly recommend you give this a look. It took me a lot of time and effort. Well, everything on the Google Sheet takes me a lot of time and effort. So if you do like this type of thing and it interests you, you know, leave a little like, subscribe to the channel, bookmark the Google Sheets, whatever you want to do. But especially the move sheet took me a lot of time to make, and then also just like planning out all the move buffs and changes and balancing them all around one another takes a lot of time. So you know, it would mean a lot if you could definitely give those a look, not just for my own sake, but also because they're really important. Because moves are literally like pretty much everything in Pokemon is a very important thing. So yeah, with that being said, Onix and Steelix, they've got some awesome buffs. Onix is genuinely viable over even Mega Steelix, let alone base Steelix. It just depends on your personal preference, depends on your other teammates, depends on a million other factors, your IV's nature, whatever it may be. So they're all incredible. They're all very bulky. Onix doesn't need to run a Violet to be bulky, although especially he's still going to struggle to take some hits. Their typings, at least Onix's and Mega Steelix's, are still, you know, riddled with those 4x weaknesses, which I am a common advocator or a defender of having 4x weaknesses. All types of great Pokemon have 4x weaknesses. So I'm not trying to argue that they're bad because they have it, because that mentality actually annoys me a lot. Especially in game in a ROM hack where all you have to do is just switch the hell out. Like, it's not like they're going to switch out as well. You know, you just have to counter whatever's in front of you. The game will still be pretty damn difficult, but it will be also fair. Keep in mind, every single Pokemon is super strong now, and you're also not guaranteed max IVs or a beneficial nature, so those will play a big part also in the difficulty. And you also don't have access to a move learner until the end of the game, so you have to be very smart with what moves you teach by level up and which ones you teach via TM and tutor, which of course all of the TM and tutor options are infinitely teachable. But I'm kind of going off. This is going to be a longer video, maybe around 15 minutes, which is a bit longer for my standards, just because there's so much to talk about. Because I also want to get into the mechanics of how these guys individually function, because it's sick. I love all three of them. I would love to use any of them. Onix, Sand Rush, very fitting ability with 70 base speed, Rock and Ground, dual stab, with tons of new great Rock and Ground type moves that are now 100% accurate and strong and reliable, in conjunction with his 120 base attack, is beautiful, and his bulk. A Violet Onix into Sand is great, but you also don't need to run a Violet every boss fight. You know, your HP and physical defense is incredible enough to where you literally will never need it. Like, you don't need a Violet. With a Violet, it's overkill. I mean, you're swallowing physical attacks at that point. Even 4x weak moves you'll probably swallow on the physical side. On the special side, you do need a Violet to take special hits well. Although, not always. You know, you might want to run, you know, just max HP, max speed for certain boss fights. In the Sand, under Sand Rush, you do not need a Violet at all. You can run a boosting item, or even self-setting Sand is viable. Keep in mind, I did balance this ROM hack to be Team Lock Nuzlocke, at least for experienced hardcore Nuzlockers. Obviously, if you're not experienced, you'll probably struggle with that. I wouldn't recommend it. But if you're an experienced hardcore Nuzlocker, you know, give Team Lock a try if you're interested in that type of thing, because I designed all Pokemon to be able to do many different functions, both offensive and defensive, with all types of great new moves. For example, you know, you get Parting Shot. In this case, it's very obvious, I guess, that they're both offensive and defensive, but for other Pokemon, it might not be as obvious. But yeah, Onix super sick. Sand Rush with the buffed Sand Rock, or I guess what's it called, Smooth Rock. If you check out the how that buffs and changes, you can see that Smooth Rock is buffed for it now gives you 6 turns as opposed to 3. So the reason I did that is so that way you don't need a Sandstream Pokemon to use Onix. So example, Team Lock Nuzlockers, they can't go to their PC to switch and just grab a Sandstream Pokemon. Of course, there are about a dozen of them now. But in general, you're not always going to have one available to you. So, especially in a Nuzlocke where you can't guarantee your encounters. So what the reason I did that is so you can just run Sandstorm on any old regular Pokemon that you have, which a lot of Pokemon get Sandstorm. Teach the TM, slap Smooth Rock on them, slap Parting Shot or U-Turn on them, which pretty much every single Pokemon in the game gets at least one switch move now via TM. Slap both those moves on him. Now you got 9 full turns of Sand and 4 full move slots of things to use on Onix. Sediment is incredible on all 3 of them. Sediment is essentially functions like Shore Up, right? So in the Sand, under Sand Rush with Onix, you're healing 2/3 HP with Sediment. Otherwise, it's just a flat 50% Rock type version of Recover, or I guess technically it's a Ground type move actually. I always forget like my own. It feels like it's both Rock and Ground, but anyway, Steelix has not permanent Sandstream, but it has self-setting Sandstream. So you can get that Sediment instantly, heal 2/3 HP on a Pokemon that's a Steel type with 130 HP, 180 defense, 100 speed F. He's an absolute tank. You don't need to run Mega Steelix every boss fight, despite the fact that Mega Steelix, as you've probably been eyeballing, is not only incredibly powerful, but also just absolutely insanely tanky. Keep in mind, like, I don't know what I should justify more. The AI using this against you, in which case it'll be a walk in the park. You can just teach any of the million ground and fighting type coverage moves that every single Pokemon gets now. For the most part, like so many Pokemon get, takedown via TM, for example, which is 110 base power fighting type, or Earthquake, or Seismic Fist, or whatever else it may be. So I wouldn't be worried about dealing with it for yourself. As for the player, late game especially, 130 base power Focus Blast on every single special attacker that gets it. Like it's gonna you're not going to be able to solo fights at Mega Steelix despite what the raw bulk might look like. Keep in mind, you're also limited in your move slot choices, so you have to keep Sediment. I would say Sediment is a staple. I would never delete Sediment on any of these 3. Like if you do, you're a fool in my opinion, because this is such a good move on them. But yeah, I'm kind of getting sidetracked. There's so much to talk about. Steelix is very powerful. They always had the ability Sheer Force. In the previous rendition, I had Strong Jaw on them, but they had a higher base attack, so I kind of redistributed the stats around, gave them more HP, and dropped special attack a bit more. So now they have Sheer Force, which is incredible. There's a whole list of boosted options that you can check out. I'm not even going to try getting into it. What I will say is you probably wouldn't want to run Life Orb, unless, it's kind of overkill, because you're already really strong. You can just use flat out regular old, Iron Tail, 110 base power, 90% accuracy. You've got all types of great coverage moves. The only downside of Sheer Force is that you only have 1 physical Sheer Force boosted ground type move. Technically, you have 2 actually. You have Dig, which gives you +1 accuracy, and is 75 base power. No, sorry, 80 base power. And then you have Precipice Blades at level 60, which will have a 30% burn rate, 130 base power, 85% accuracy, which is very strong and very good, especially on a bulky Pokemon where missing isn't as big of a deal. You can actually justify using a strong move like that. So you can totally use it on Sheer Force Steelix. But basically, all Pokemon, I haven't covered this yet somehow. Hopefully I did earlier, but I don't remember. All Pokemon are balanced to have 2 useful abilities with an infinite usability capsule. So basically, for example, you're not always going to be running Onix in the Sand. It's also just a good Pokemon on its own. It's a very bulky, strong Pokemon with actually a usable speed tier. So you can use, Solid Rock plus Rock Polish. You can even use Weakness Policy, whatever it is. There's so many things you can do with this guy. And of course, the common 4 times weaknesses against AI, will prevent you from soloing boss fights, but it also doesn't make it a bad Pokemon. It just means you have to switch out and use one of your 5 other Pokemon, which is good. That's how Pokemon should be played. Yeah, Mega Steelix, incredibly bulky with that Sandstream. That's why I made it a part Rock type. Also, I think it makes more sense because the crystals are coming out and crystals are Rock type in Pokemon. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Steel Rock. He shares that typing with Probopass and Bastiodon, who are also incredibly bulky. Probopass having Levitate and Lightning Rod, while Bastiodon has Rough Skin and I believe Bulletproof or Solid Rock or something. I think it's Solid Rock. I remember I was just indecisive. Yeah, it's Filter and Rough Skin, so there you go. I forgot I wanted to make it Bulletproof, but I ended up settling on those 2. Regardless, Energy Shield is an incredible ability for Mega Steelix when you don't want the Sand. However, Sandstream into Sand Force, very, very powerful. You will swallow 4 times effective hits. Non-stab ones, but stab ones are still going to one-shot you easily. and even non-stab ones will still kill you because I can't really explain how high the power level is in this hack. A lot of moves are complete overkill for regular Pokemon, but in Mega Steelix's case, they actually help take it down in one hit regardless. For example, like 130 base power Focus Blast, 150 base power Super Power dropping attack by 2, Close Combat being on like every Pokemon, Takedown being on like every Pokemon. You know, stuff like that just makes Steelix like the base power of those moves being so high, multiplied by 4, will still result in him getting one-shotted. You can go ahead and run calcs if you're curious. Not to mention there's all types of crazy boosting abilities like Tough Claws and Ruthless and all this other stuff running around. So, yeah, killing Mega Steelix is no issue whatsoever for the AI and also for you. Obviously, like in a competitive sense, it's a whole different story. But none of these buffs and changes are balanced for competitive play. Pretty much 80% of these buffs and changes would be very unreasonable in a competitive sense. I don't even know if these guys would be. Maybe Steelix or something would be, but they're all great. Every Pokemon has reliable recovery, so that's not anything special, but it is very good on all 3 of them because of the sand boost that you get from Sediment. You heal by 2/3. You have other great utility moves like Parting Shot and tons of great coverage moves, and they're just so cool and strong, and I love these buffs and changes. It's such a cool Pokemon. Very underpowered. Steelix always super underpowered in my opinion. Like, it's like a 30-foot long, like gigantic rock and steel snake. Like, why is it so weak? It never made sense to me. I know it's for the balancing for early game and Gen 1 and whatever, but in a ROM hack like this, I can kind of go crazy, and I think it's super cool, and I think it's obviously very fitting for them to have stats like this, so that's what I ended up going for. There are probably bulkier Pokemon. I think in terms of raw bulk with the sand, Mega Steelix, and also with Energy Shield if you want that as well, which functions like Molten Skill. I don't know if I said that earlier. That's insane for a lot of boss fights as well. You can easily swallow hits, and you can use like a utility move or just kill whatever's in front of you. Like, you can live a Focus Blast that you normally wouldn't live. Even with the Spit F boost from Sandforce and the giant HP and Spit F, like, the fact that it's just such a high base power move will mean it will still probably one-shot you, depending on what's using it. Yeah. I don't really know what else to say. I think I'm just going in circles. Battle Cry, that's an awesome utility move that drops attack and special attack by 2. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna leave the video off there. You got tons of powerful stab. Rock Wrecker drops your attack by 2, 150 base power. Head Smash, Headlong Rush, 100% accurate, 150 base power, drops defenses by 1. There's also other moves that do that same effect, same for Rock Wrecker. So again, I highly encourage you, if you are new here, to just check out that Google Sheet in the description. You will not regret it. Bookmark it, check it out. Dragon Dance is pretty good on Onix because of its 70 base speed. You can actually abuse it with like a Violite or without a Violite or Solid Rock or whatever you want to do. Rock Polish gives you +1 accuracy, so that's really good with moves like Stone Edge and Precipice Blades, which are 90 and 85% accurate respectively, and are very high base power and good, you know, dual stab combo. We all know how good Edgequake is. Yeah, all three of these guys are great. If you use Onix the whole game, that's totally a viable option. If you like Onix, or if you just happen to have a Sandstream Pokemon that also hasn't died yet, then I would probably recommend using Onix over Steelix. But if you don't have a Sandstream Pokemon at that point, and you want Sand, or you want the Steel typing from Steelix, for example, Steelix resists Bug, you can, I mean, not that Onix is taking that much in first impression regardless, but, you know, Steelix does have very useful defensive capabilities, and of course that Mega Evolution is very powerful with that 30% boost to its stab moves, which stacks and becomes a 1.95 times boost with Sand Force from Sandstream on Mega Steelix, and that big Spadef boost. And then of course Energy Shield is also very useful. So yeah, overall these guys are sick. I love them to death. Really, really cool buffs and changes. Big glow ups for all of them. Thank you so much for listening. There's a bunch of other useful little utility things I haven't even bothered covering because I can trust that you'll be able to check those out in the Google Sheet down below and look at what the Pokemon, what the moves do now. So yeah, thank you so much for listening, and I'll be back for more coming up. This is probably one of the longer videos, but hell of a lot to cover, so yeah, peace.